Hello, Ryan here from C&R Gunsmithing. How are y'all doing? It's been a little while. I had to step out for a little bit and take care of some things, and I ended up getting a little bit of a sickness, so had me down for a little bit, but we're back. So I want to make a video today on triggers and trigger work and trigger jobs. I have a good friend of mine that came to me. He has an AR, what we call an AR-9. It's actually a 9mm version of an AR. Shoots 9mm Luger. He bought this a little while back and kind of uses it about 50-50. He takes it out and tinkers around at the range and does some stuff with it, but then he also shoots a little bit of competition with it. So he brought it to me the other day and said, hey, can you make the trigger a little bit better? Stock triggers, they come pretty heavy, pretty sloppy. So basically I thought, okay, I'll make a video on what I've learned and my philosophies on triggers and trigger work and trigger jobs, and have a little discussion about it. So with that being said, it's disclaimer time for all the internet trolls and wannabe gun lawyers and all that kind of stuff. This is my philosophy on trigger work as it relates to the research that I've done, talking with people, seeing triggers in various types of guns, pistols, rifles, and just my thought process on the mixture of safety versus usability, and so on and so forth. So again, any information in this video is strictly my philosophy. This is how I run my business and how I deal with and set up triggers. In no way, shape, or form is this the end all, or is this the only way to tweak and play with triggers, but this is how I do it. So with that being said, in my mind, triggers are delicate. It's probably the most delicate operation in a rifle or a pistol. It can make or break the gun. It can also cause very tragic things to happen to it if not dealt with correctly. There's a lot of geometry. There's a lot of variables that go into setting up a trigger properly, along with customizing it to the shooter. I am not a fan of ridiculously light triggers. I think they're dangerous. The only time that I ever set up a really light trigger is if I know the person, I know they're a competition shooter, I know they're never going to carry that gun for anything but competition, and the only time that there's a round in that chamber is when he's standing on the ready line. Other than that, I usually keep my triggers around 5 pounds. I don't go lighter than that because you run into a safety issue. You don't want somebody to have the safety off. They set the gun down, they bump the stock, bang, thing goes off. You're shooting somebody, you're shooting yourself, whatnot. It's dangerous and it's just, it shouldn't be done. So generally what I try to work on when it comes to triggers, trigger pull, is, eliminating creep, eliminating, your take up, eliminating your pre and your post travels, taking out graininess, making triggers smooth. That's what I work on. I also, if I have new shooters, try to teach them in some various techniques on shooting, because the trigger is only 50% of the total equation when it comes to being able to put accurate shots downrange. You have the human factor too. So, a brand new person comes in, it's only shot their rifle, 50 times, and they're coming into me going, I just can't hit paper, I can't hit the broadside of a barn, make my trigger lighter. No, you got to learn how to shoot with the trigger that you have first, and then we'll tweak the trigger to make it better, to make it faster. Sitting down at a range on a bench rest, popping off a shot every now and then, trigger shouldn't really even play a factor because you have enough time to make adjustments, to know and figure out where your trigger is going to break, how hard it is to pull, and then you should be able to mentally make adjustments to be able to take up for that. Once you can hit paper, once you can put groups on paper, you know, if you're talking a bolt action rifle, you're not speed shooting anyway. Okay? So having a ridiculously light trigger, still not going to help you. It's not going to make it any different. You already learned how to shoot. You're already shooting tight groups. You know, if you want to make it a little easier, fine. You know, I'll take a little weight out of it, especially if you have a ridiculously heavy. I mean, 9 pounds, 11 pounds. That's a heavy trigger. Nobody likes that. But taking it down, you know, 6, 7 pounds isn't out of the question. You start talking about, you know, semi-autos, ARs, AK-47s, things like that. You know, any of your military style weapons. You know, at that point then we'll start talking about not necessarily taking weight out, but making it smoother, moving your heat reset around, making your trigger travel smaller, not necessarily taking weight out. What that will enable you to do is then be able to do follow-up shots. So with a semi-auto, in a tactical situation, which how many of us actually get into tactical situations, unless you're a professional, none of us. But if you want to go out and you want to practice, you know, tactical movement, you know, tactical simulation stuff, you want to be able to do follow-up shots. Trigger weight isn't necessarily as big a factor with that as your travels, your take-ups, and you mentally knowing where all that stuff is at. And that's where I can come in and I can tweak the triggers down to really do some pretty cool stuff. We'll take out, you know, we'll eliminate the take-up, we'll eliminate the post-travel, we'll take the graininess out of it. We can eliminate almost all the creep. You can't ever eliminate 100% of creep. Anybody tells you can eliminate 100% of creep, you can't do that, or the sear's not going to match up anymore. You're never going to freaking reset. So you can eliminate a lot of the creep. You can't get rid of all of it, but you can make it definitely way better than, you know, what a stock trigger comes with. Still maintaining, you know, a decent 5-6 pound weight on your trigger. I've had people come back to me, wow, that makes a world of difference. What did you do? Well, you still have a 7 pound trigger. I just took out your pre-travel, your post-travel, your creep, polished it up, made it better, took away the graininess. You know, you lose poundage in friction points when they're polished. You don't even have to change out springs. You don't even have to, you know, change geometries or do anything of the sort. You can polish a sear, you can polish your rubbing surfaces, and you can make them smooth. We'll drop a pound out of a trigger in a heartbeat. So basically, that's what we're going to do with this guy today. We're going to take this. I actually did about 50% of this already, and this is before I had the camera start making videos. So I've already put some set screws in this. I'm actually going to aim this down here a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I've actually run a set screw up, so if you take the handle grip off, you have a hole on an angle with a bolt in it. That's what holds your pistol grip on. You take that out, you actually run a set screw up. In some cases they're tapped, in some other cases they're not. If they're not tapped, you have to tap the whole way out. And then that set screw actually runs up against the back portion of the trigger, which allows it to, you can actually take up the pre-travel in the trigger. So you can basically eliminate all that. You put it right up against the safety, and pretty much when the safety's flicked, when you pull the trigger, it just goes. There's no take up on the trigger. What we're going to do today is we're going to strip this all down. We're going to take the trigger out, and basically, if you guys can see it, we're going to take all this off. We're actually going to drill us a little hole about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch in front of the trigger going down through. We're actually going to put a set screw in there, and basically what that's going to do is we can set that so that you eliminate all post travel in the trigger. So the second that the sear breaks and your hammer flies, that's all the further the trigger goes. You don't have any post travel in the trigger. It's eliminating slop. So we've eliminated all the pre-travel, and we've eliminated all the post travel, so there's no take up, there's no nothing, then after that we can eliminate creep, and we'll discuss a little bit later how to do that. So the beginning of this project is going to be drilling this out and putting our set screw in there to eliminate our travel. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a demonstration on this, you can see for everybody that, you know, nowadays we have to show everybody there's no ammunition in there. Okay, so we are charged, and with the safety on, you can't move that trigger at all. So generally, without that set screw in there, you can actually move that trigger back and forth a little bit, because there's a little bit of slop in between the back of the trigger and the safety where those two engage. By putting that set screw in, we've eliminated that, and then when you flip it on semi, that guy's already pushed down. That guy just clicks right there. So the only travel that was in that trigger before the hammer went was a little bit of the creep that's in that. So now, after the fact, hammer's been down, now we have a little bit of this free play. So by drilling this hole here and putting in a set screw, we're going to eliminate all that. All that slop's going to be gone. So you're basically going to have a trigger that, when it's moving, it's either resetting or the sear's breaking. Okay? So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get at this. I'm going to drill this, I'm going to set this up, and when I'm done, I'll come back and do a follow-up here and show you how all it works. So, again, thanks a lot, and we'll be back shortly.